Hi, this is Rico the Fox Kid with my first video article, and I'm going to be reviewing and talking about the ban list and how I think it could have been better and some other suggestions. But overall, I think it was a really good ban list. It's a lot better than the other three we've had in the past recently. So I'm going to start with how no new cards were banned. I think this is the second time that has happened. The first time was right at the end of the Teledad era. No cards were banned then either, so I guess that sort of makes sense as there weren't a lot of cards that really deserved to be banned. It was just a lot of them were just powerful in multiples, so they just need to get hit to 1. So I'll go on to the limited cards. The first card I'd like to point out is Allure of Darkness. That kind of came as a surprise to me. I really didn't expect Allure to go anywhere. I expected it to stay at 2, but when I look at it, it does really make sense. The top 3 decks during last format were Twilight and Zombies and Blackwing, and all of those use dark monsters, so Allure was a universal draw card for all the top decks, and it just made the game so fast, and they were trying to slow the game down, so they needed to hit Allure to 1, that way there wouldn't be so much draw power. So that makes sense. The next 3 cards I'm going to be pointing out are Brionac, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, Mizuki, and Barrel from a Different Dimension. These were the 3 cards that made Zombie really powerful. Brionac getting hit to 1 was pretty much a given because it was already at 1 in Japan, so they had to match it with what's over there. But really, Brionac has a very strong effect anyway, and most zombie decks will usually get at least 2 of these out in 1 turn, and with their effect of returning cards to hand, it's just insane. Mizuki would revive monsters, zombies, and that's really what zombies thrive on, so it made zombies pretty powerful to have monsters come back every single turn, and when combined with Brionac, it just swarms so much. And Burial just made Mizuki reusable, it just made zombies even more insane, and Burial even works outside of the decks. Like, it could reuse Necrogardnas for Light Sworn, and it could bring back monsters you dropped for Allure and things like that, so those were all deserving to go to 1. This next one came as a surprise to me. It was Chaos Sorcerer. I really thought Chaos Sorcerer would either stay at 2 or go to 3. I didn't really expect him to go back to 1. But the main focus of the ban list, I've noticed, was basically trying to destroy Lightsworn and Twilight, and Chaos Sorcerer was one of the big monsters in there. It's one of its win conditions, so it really makes sense that he got back to 1. These next 3 cards were pretty much obvious. They were Charge of the Light Brigade, Lumina, and Necrogardna. Charge of the Light Brigade was pretty much a given. Everyone knew that that card was going to get hit to 1 because Lightsworn was good, but it didn't get competitive until Charge came out, and then Charge pretty much made Lightsworn as fast as it was, because you could just mill 3 from the top of your deck and then search for any monster, usually Lumina or Garoth, and that's automatically 4 cards out of your deck. So if you had all 3 charges, then it's 12 cards out already, and then you could probably get Lumina into another Garoth, which would cause even more milling, so it makes sense that charges at 1. Lumina at 1 I kind of expected, but it wasn't one of those things that I would be surprised if it hadn't happened, but it still makes sense because Lumina was the reviving and swarming power of the Light Swarms, because she would just bring back any monster from the graveyard that you needed. So getting Lumina to 1 makes sense, and it will make the deck a lot slower. Necrogardna was the big surprise. I didn't even expect Necrogardna to get hit at all, and if anything, probably just hit to 2, but it was hit to 1, and that really makes sense, because Necrogarden made it so that Lightsworns didn't even have to use trap cards. Like, the only traps they ran were Beckoning Light. And that's because they didn't have to rely on defenses in the back row. They just have to rely on the graveyard and Honest, which is in the hand. So this gets rid of most of the defense mechanism of Lightsworn that made them just so hard to beat them. So that really makes sense. This next one was a bit of a surprise to me. It was Destiny Draw. And I'm guessing this happened because Destiny Heroes have been out of control for ever since they really came out. Because first we had Diamond Dude Turbo, and then there was Perfect Circle, which is how we lost Disc Commander, and then we had Destiny Heroes with Malicious at 3 and Teledad, which was torture. And now we were seeing them in Destiny Hero Zombie, and they were getting put in absolute zero decks. So really, Destiny Heroes have gotten out of control. You can basically just put 3 Destiny Hero or Destiny Draws, 2 Destiny Hero Malicious, and any other Destiny Heroes you need, and then put the remaining cards left, and you basically got yourself a deck with a good draw engine. So they really needed to hit Destiny Draw down to 1. This next one I also found as a surprise. It was Foolish Burial. This one, it took me a while to figure out why they would hit it down to 1. I was expecting, if anything, it would go back to 3. But when I look at it, it really just makes sense, because it comes back to Destiny Draw, because Foolish Burial will search out for Destiny Hero Malicious, which you can remove to summon your second one, and then you can summon Deep Sea Diva, and then synchro into a level 8 like Stardust, and then use Miracle Fusion and summon Absolute Zero. So really, they probably just hit Foolish to make sure Absolute Zero doesn't go out of control. This next one was hit because it's getting big in Japan again. It's Magical Explosion. And this card is really all it's ever been famous for were its first turn kills, because you just fill your graveyard with spell cards and then activate 3 Magical Explosion to wipe out your opponent. And it had a bit of a rise with Karad's Explosion. I'm not really sure how that worked, but I have heard about it. And then now there's Junk Collector now, so what works is you play Junk Collector, and it uses some effect to, it revolves around return from the different dimension and then getting 3 Junk Collectors and removing them all from Magical Explosion. And just with all the drawing spell cards, it just speeds through Magical Explosion so fast, and I guess hitting Magical Explosion to 1 will weaken it a little bit, but we'll see. Another one that I found as a surprise was Necroface, and I was hearing hype about how there's this one Infernity card coming out in the Shining Darkness, I think. I forget what it's called, but you would remove from play your entire hand until your next standby phase or something like that. And people thought that would make Necroface so powerful, because every time Necroface is removed from play, both players lose the top 5 cards of the deck. But the truth is that doesn't work, because the cards you remove from play from your hand are all removed from play face down. So when Necroface is removed from play face down, you don't know it's Necroface, so his effect won't activate. So that combo doesn't really work, but I'm guessing it's also because I used to run a Chaos deck, and it had Necroface in it, and combined with Dimensional Alchemist and Gold Sarcophagus and just things like that, how often you could get off Necroface and mill was pretty insane, so hitting it down to 1 was probably a good idea. This next one I also found a surprise was Mind Crush. I can see 2 reasons for this one being hit down to 1 again. The first thing I'm thinking of was the Infernities, which are getting a lot of hype. So, and no matter what, Mind Crush is going to help you, because if you guess the card right, then your opponent loses some of the cards in your hand, and if you guess wrong, then you lose one of the cards in your hand, which in Infernities, that's a good thing, because you should have no cards in your hand. The other thing that I've heard is that it works so well with Trap Dust Shoot, which does really make sense. If you have 2 Mind Crushes and Trap Dust Shoot all face down on the field, and then your opponent draws, you activate Trap Dust Shoot, and then you get to look at their entire hand, and you return one of their monsters back, and then you activate both Mind Crush, they're losing at least 3 cards in their hand. it could be more depending on how many multiples of cards in their hand they have. So Mind Crush getting hit to 1 was a good idea.